and stuff for people to use, like
To use their computers and stuff?
you
If
can use their
wanted to
computers and their
programming?
software. You can also go to schools. If you can't afford going to school right now, a good thing to do is to make friends with somebody who is going to school, and then to help them on their project. Yeah, that'll get you into the building and using the software and working on your own project.
Okay, yeah. And you know, also you can find online tutorials and stuff for these. Okay, so Flash. So really, honestly, when I tell my animators to when they start off on their scenes, is to really kind of stick to what is happening in the storyboard first, and then animate to that. That way, it won't be overacted or anything. Keeping it simple again, keeping things clear. Always kind of making sure that silhouettes are clear. This is very important in any sort of medium of the animation. Well, okay, so since it is in Flash, we're using the computer to actually do our work for some of our work for us, which is kind of doing tweens and stuff. There's actually so she was talking about in-betweens and all that. Keeping those same sort of principles in mind, but letting the computer actually do some of the support for you, which will actually help keep costs down and actually help you finish things faster. We actually use like puppeting, which is used with symbols in Flash. If you know anything about, does anybody know anything about Flash? You do? Okay, so do you know what symbols are? And do you know how that swaps out? What is it? Yeah. What is that called? Swapping out?
It's called swapping out.
Okay, swapping out. Just trying to make sure that that doesn't look like a marionette puppet is sometimes like the hardest thing to do, and honestly, that's like the biggest thing I usually address with the animators I talk to is trying to keep it not looking like it's a puppet, and even though it is, yeah.
Yeah, Archer is a puppet show.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Archer is a puppet show, and we do everything by rigging illustrations together like a puppet. And then, if you've seen any of the later seasons, have anyone seen season 5? Awesome. Okay, good. When you see the action scenes for the characters, and they get really, really intense, they're done by amazing 2D animators. One of them sitting here, Jason Wallins, has worked on some of the action scenes. So when you think about your animation, don't just focus on one method and say, I'm going to make it all this one method. Focus on what's going to tell your story best. So we'll use our traditional 2D puppet method, but then we need to break it up for the illustrative frame-by-frame style of more traditional animation, then we'll use that. We'll switch it up however we need to.
Well, it's animated in After Effects,
Yes.
mostly, right?
Yes.
Maybe you can describe how that works. Do you know at all? Does anybody know?
Yes, I do know how the show that I work on is made. So the illustrators will draw all the characters. They'll rotoscope them from images we've taken from models, and then they'll break. Rotoscope is when you trace over an image and in a stylized form. So a lot of times in school, people will think, oh, well, I'll do my animation all rotoscoped, without remembering that rotoscoping requires a lot of rules. You'll have to define your line value, where things stop and begin. We've established a style and we like it. And after the illustrators have rotoscoped the characters, they've drawn the hand, and then they've drawn an arm. The animators will take it and rig it, which is add their joints. So we'll add where each drawing will bend, and then we'll go ahead and put it in the scene and animate. And we have people who do 3D work for us. As Robert was saying, the car chases in the background, so he'll tell you more about 3D animation.
As far as 3D animation goes with your own projects, there's really no easy way to do it other than doing it and doing it and doing it again. there's no cheap way to do it unless you steal it from the internet, which I highly recommend. Because it is, I mean, it's so expensive. And what happened with me is I worked at a studio and they said, you have to learn this. So I went home, downloaded it, and learned it. And then I worked at a studio that paid for the licenses and did fine. Then I moved to Floyd County and they said, what 3D program should we buy? And I said, Cinema 4D, because that's what I know. So we bought 6 licenses. So now we're totally legit. You have to learn this stuff one way or another. Go find your friend who has a copy of it and borrow it, and learn it really well, and learn it and really get to love it. I love Cinema 4D a lot. It's a very friendly program. It's something you can step right into and do a lot of cool stuff really quickly. It's one of the industry standards for motion graphics. That's why we use it for Archer, because it's very easy to just spin a car around and make something explode. Maya is more standardized. It's a bigger software that a lot of character animation studios use that don't use proprietary stuff. It's also very expensive and very complicated. One of the things that the themes that we kind of kept touching on is to keep things simple. Like, if you're going to do a character animation thing by yourself, it's not going to look like a Pixar movie. Keep it small, keep it simple, keep it looking the way that your style looks, and keep it in a way that is manageable for you to actually finish.
Yeah, because that's what you really want to do. Is you want to be able to show a finished product. There have been plenty of times where I've bitten off way more than I could chew, and just stopped like halfway through because I was like either tired of doing it, bored with it, or just couldn't finish. And that was me just failing at it. And that is a good learning tool for me. I realized I needed to not go overboard so that I could actually show somebody something that I was working on. And that's how you get jobs too, if you want to get a job.
But also, as far as learning things, the internet is an enormous warehouse full of everybody in the world saying, oh, I figured out how to spin that cube better. So there's always a YouTube video or some sort of tutorial online. I mean, I'm constantly looking up tutorials, and also find friends who are doing the same sort of programs and same sort of work as you are. It's always good to have someone else's point of view and how they figured out the way to solve a problem a different way than you did.
And that's something else that's also pretty important too about animation, is that it's not a solitary thing. It could be a solitary thing. You can make your very own thing, but honestly, if you want to get something bigger, you got to work with people. You got to collaborate with people, and that's actually one of the main joys of animation, is actually collaborating with a whole bunch of great artists to collectively just create something that's bigger than all of you, like some magical majesty thing. I don't know.
So that's what cartoons are, magical majesty.
We can go ahead and go on to questions if anyone was not clear on what we said earlier. Right.
Should we pass a microphone?
Should we pass it? Are you going to be the microphone person?
Yeah.
All right.
Could our volunteer help us?
We got a volunteer. Yeah, take your time.
Actually, everyone who asks a question that pertains to how to make your own cartoon, specifically pertains to that, will be getting a prize. And we have a volunteer in the back who has the bag with the prizes.
What?
That's the volunteer I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, I like Adam Ford. Adam Ford also works at Floyd County. You could ask him a question.
I'm not.
About voice recording and voices, I'm not an audio student or person, so what's a good quality way for me to get voice recordings without me really like knowing what I'm doing, because I don't know how to work like anything super high tech as far as voices goes.
Do you want to do the voice recordings yourself, or do you have people who are going to help you?
She isn't.
Yeah.
Just for like projects, like
Yeah, but are you doing it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you need then is proper equipment. If you're doing it yourself, then you're gonna need equipment, and there are places here in Georgia that will allow you to use their sound rooms. Do you live in Georgia?
Yeah, I actually go to the Art Institute, so I probably could just like rent something.
You
and I
could.
would just-
You could rent that, and there's also Wonderwood Studio. They have an open source for artists to use. There are a lot of creative places where you could get your own sound recorded. If you're going to be working with other people, ask them to use their equipment. But if you were just looking for sound effects, I would go on a sound effects website. I know there's Sound Dogs, that's like the overused student version, but check with your library at school. And if you can't use your library, use another school's library.
I was just wondering if I could get like something good off my iPhone without
Yes,
having.
I
Yeah.
recommend that highly.
Okay.
Yeah, get whatever you can, sounding good.
Get whatever you can, sounding good as fast as you can. I have a USB mic at home that I use a lot, as well as my iPhone. But yeah, just make a good, compelling soundtrack first thing.
I mean, you had a microphone. You could have just taken that one. But, yeah. All right, we got one right in there in the back. Or okay.
If you have a question, could you just line up right here on this wall?
I
Just line up, go ahead.
Picky of where you're at.
It's okay.
I noticed you didn't say anything about animatics. Can you give us any tips about those?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that's also an important. Yeah, do an animatic.
You need good timing. Yeah, go ahead.
So far, I'd say like my experience has been in After Effects or using Flash itself as a time animatic sort of program. Yeah, I mean that will help make sure that your pacing is working, and it's also like a good time to figure out how the dialogue will work in the scene, what exactly sort of storyboard frames you need to do.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, Flash is a good program to use for doing your animatic because it has a lower weight on your computer. Anything that's going to lag when you render it is going to lag when you scrub it, so it'll be harder to get your beats down. Use a low-grade software. Put your images on a low resolution when you're doing the timing. You don't need beautiful images just to get the beats for your story. The faster your program runs, the more accurate your timing is going to be.
Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys can get. Can you?
What? Okay, next.
I have a question about getting an animation test from the studio. Is that something that they will only give you if you make it far enough along the hiring process, or can you just email them and say, hey, can I take your animation test?
For the 3D animation test at my department, if you email me, I will send you a test. It's that is the key to getting a job with us. Is if you can do the test, then I have a position open. Yeah.
And again, you know, don't pirate that software to do that test.
Are you really being able to know that from their end though? Are you reading that sort of thing?
So I mean, if we take a look at those, and I'd say also like the main thing to keep in mind is that we don't actually. There is a time limit a lot of times, but you know, if you turn it around within a couple of days and it looks like crap, then you're not going to get hired. So like, take however long of time that it takes to do it, and you know, the end. That's it. Okay. Second? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with a couple of groups. One's Sophie Waffles, and the other's Making Biscuits. And we're doing some.
I'm sorry.
And we're doing some Invader Zim episodes. We're recreating some of the lost episodes. Our 3D that I do is in Blender, and we have another animator here who does 2D in Toon Boom. But my question specifically is, what would you recommend for doing effects? I've been modeling things like laser beams and stuff like that in Blender, but I have to do separate passes to get glow and stuff like that. It seems like it's really inefficient. What would you recommend for doing effects animation?
like laser beams and stuff.
Laser beams, sparkles,
After
the
Effects.
fire part of.
100% After Effects.
Okay.
There's so many different types of plugins you can download, a lot of them for free. And also After Effects is a program you can get, I think, subscription based for like $10 a month, something like that, for the duration of the project. And so many different plugins, so many people use it, so a lot of people are building those sorts of effects and things in there. There are great tutorials on it, and it's also one of those things that you can build a lot of really great things with the default settings. Just a really nice, easy program.
A good tutorial site would be videocopilot.net. And it's great that you have more than one person working on your project, because that means you get double the trial days.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if we got a license for that.
No, if you're doing the like the certain amount of days trial, if you're just going to use it for that part of your program or that part of your project, then the amount of people you have on your group is the multiplied how much you have for that trial.
Okay, we have 3 local, 3D, 2D, and someone doing storyboard.
Yeah, well then if you've got 3 people and it's 30-day trial, you've got 90 days.
Oh, it works.
Okay, I'm an art institute student as well, but I'm in game design. But a lot of things is going on that in animation and games you have to work with teams.